Because if we fall unconscious, if we are depleted, we can't help them. We are no service to them, right? So the most self-care. Hey, parents, do you ever feel guilty? Do you ever feel like you need time for yourself, but your child is draining your energy and you can't do both things at the same time? Today, we have a mother that feels like she's defeated. She feels like she's failing. And this is a feeling that is all too common for both moms and dads, because I've felt this way. And I'm going to take a look at this, share with you if you can relate to this. I'm going to share some ideas, some things to do, and more importantly, some mindset approaches that might help a lot without even changing any specific behavior. Let's get into it. Feel like I'm struggling with so much at the moment. I have a nearly 2-year-old, 21 and a half months. So it looks like this parent, like you go by 2 years old and you're communicating also to parents who go by months. I always thought it was a strange thing to, like, after 12, like, let's start using years. You know what I mean? I have a 96-month-old. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, that's besides the point. That is just go, go, go. Needs to be busy and stimulated at almost all times, but is not very good at playing by himself. He always has to have myself or his dad involved. I can relate. My son was go, go, go. He still is, by the way, so it might not go away. He's 6, and he has so much energy. I used to joke, he's nonstop. Even when he sleeps, he moved around and he's fallen off the bed a few times, but he's 6 now, so we're still going strong. This is, like I said, it's so common, and it can be viewed in many ways. It can be like, oh my God, when can I get a break? But I understand. I get the feeling from your post that, like, it's so much for you, especially as a young mom, especially as a young family, probably not much sleep. I hear you, I feel you. And sometimes that's the best thing we can hear as parents, and just, I hear you, I feel you. You're not alone. Just know that you're not alone. I love playing with my son, but I have to accept that I have to be able to do other stuff like housework and the most self-care. Yes. And by the way, I love that you added this. The most important thing is self-care. Like, that's something that so many parents, and I want to acknowledge you right now and anyone else watching who puts yourself first. That is truly the most loving thing we can do for our kids, is to put our own self-love and self-care first. And so many times I hear parents say, like, I do everything I do for my kids, I don't matter, and things. And that is so not only self-defeating for you, but you're also robbing from your kids, because if you have that view of yourself and you're depleting your own self of care, of love, of energy, then you are giving to your child out of a depleted vessel, right? So we have to put ourselves first, and that's the most selfless thing we can do, right? It's just like on an airplane. They instruct us to put our own oxygen mask on first, and then put our children's oxygen mask on, because if we fall unconscious, if we are depleted, we can't help them. We are no service to them, right? So the most self-care. But I have to accept, you do have to accept it. But how about we take out this and see how this sentence reads then, and see, let me know how it feels, right? I love playing with my son, and let's do this. To me, as I've said many times, the words we use are so important, because those are our thoughts. That's what we are putting into the cycle of behavior, thought, action kind of behavior. So let's change the word but to and see how this reads and feels. I love playing with my son, and I accept that I have to be able to do other stuff like housework and the most self-care. How does that feel compared to the first sentence, right? Let me read the first sentence. I love playing with my son, but I have to accept that I have to be able to do other stuff too, like housework and the most self-care. Let me read the new one again. I love playing with my son, and I accept that I have to be able to do other stuff like housework and the most self-care. How does that feel? That feels different to me to just read it, right? Go back. If you want to put this video on pause or push the back arrow and go back and listen to that again, right? I accept, just replacing the word but with and taking out that have to, and just say, I accept. If we have to do something, it implies that there's force involved, that we don't really want to. There's some sort of resistance there. And what we want to do, we want to remove that resistance to make it easier and more effortless. And a simple way to do that is just by being mindful of the language that we use with ourselves. Ooh, that's powerful. Let's continue. My son is becoming very strong-willed. By the way, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. My son is too. My son is so strong-willed. And sometimes it can surface in ways that are not ideal for keeping things together in my own mind, right? He can be very strong-willed, and my daughter too. But here's the thing that I remind myself of too. Strong-willed people in this world get what they want. The strong-willed people get what they want. But how are we going to shape which direction that strong will goes to? Towards achieving goals, towards getting what they want, towards something healthy and beneficial, sports, some sort of activity, some sort of, and I know he's under 2 years old, so we don't have to complicate things, but I'm talking, in the few, we start with a trajectory now, right? In which way? In healthy ways or in resistance ways? You can't always get what you want. Things like that. Which ways are we gonna point him towards? You know what I mean? And I feel like maybe I'm failing him by not being able to guide that strength in the right direction. Okay. Yes, I see that we are kind of on the same page here. You know these. Here's the thing. Here's the beautiful thing about this post. Here's the beautiful thing about this question and this mother, that like we are on the same page. You're talking about what I was just talking about. You are pointing him in the right direction. And this strong-willed is a strength. Yes. So now here's the thing. Now that we know that this is a strength to be pointed in the right direction. Now it's just a matter of getting it from here to here. Now it's just a matter of getting our own resistance, right? Just by simple things like what we talked about earlier, changing the language. Changing our language changes our mind sometimes, right? Getting that out of the way, getting ourselves out of the way, right? And this ugly thought, I feel like I'm failing him. Okay, that feeling, that's the resistance. That's the resistance. That's the block. This feeling is the block. I feel like I'm failing him. And feelings, they come from all sorts of different angles. They come from all sorts of different places, from our own childhood, from our own upbringing, from our own failures, from our own desire to create a perfect world for our kids, which, isn't happening, but from our own desire to want a better life for our kids, from our own whatever. I call those raccoons. Those raccoons pop up in our minds and they root around in our garbage. And the best way to get rid of a raccoon is to shine a light on it. Once you shine a light on it, it looks at the light and scurries away. So what we need to do, we need to get rid of those raccoons. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm failing him. Let's address that. What are ways we can address that feeling? What are some ways that we can change that feeling? What are some ways that we can release that guilty feeling? Right? Because that looks like that's what's getting in your way. Right? And so I guess if I were to, work with you, or if I were to coach you or whatever, I would probably ask what specific things, and you can write this down too. What specific things are making you feel this way? In what specific ways are you failing him? Or do you feel, right? Because feelings, they're not concrete. So by taking a notebook and writing down, okay, what ways am I feeling? What ways am I failing him? Right? I'm failing him by, and then start writing down the things. So here's the thing. By doing that, you're making it concrete. You're putting it into actual words. And by putting it into actual words, you'll see either like, this is really ridiculous, this thinking. This isn't even true. Or it's not real. It's not even like based on anything. Or you will find something that is based on, and you'll be able to change it because it's concrete, because it's written down. So I would suggest writing down specific ways that you think that you're failing him, that you feel that you're failing him. That way it turns it from an abstract feeling to an thinking. And then you can address that and see if the feeling goes away or gets smaller. When it gets smaller, then you can decide what to do with it, right? You can manage it, you can control it, you can change certain behaviors, you can take more self-care, more ideas will open up to you on how you can solve this thing. You know what I mean? But this feeling like you're failing him, because I know just by reading these, few sentences, I know you don't really think this. This is just a raccoon belief that is getting in there. All right, so we want to shine some light on that, steer into it. Let's keep going and steer them in the right direction. I try redirection rather unsuccessfully, so I don't know of probably if I'm doing it right, quite right, but what I'm just feeling very defeated and I feel like I'm drifting further away from the parent I want to be. Okay, so I try redirection rather unsuccessfully. I mean, what does that mean? Like, what does redirection mean? You try to play with him and then you try to escape and do some housework and then he comes, follows you, or like, what does redirection mean? And also, what if he started helping you with housework? What if he started helping out? You taught him, hey, here's the table. I'm going to spray this. Make a circle on the table or something like that, right? And then you're kind of like implanting in his head that housework can be fun rather than saying something like many parents probably might say like, I have to clean this table and then I'll play with you or whatever, Well, no, let's make it a thing to do together. You know what I mean? And another thing I used to do, if you probably still sleep in his room or are in his room until he falls asleep, or he's in your bed until he falls asleep, I used to use this time as my time to meditate and self-care and do work on breath work. So I used to, while my kids were going to sleep, say, okay, good night. And then I would sit on the floor or on a chair or whatever, and really just meditate and focus on my breathing, focused on my dreams, focused on my goals, focused on what I wanted to become. And that just focusing that time, because that time's there. So either like you're scrolling on social media or you're falling asleep with them and then you have to wake up and then be all groggy, right? You can use that time. You can use that time that's normally dead time to become self-care time. You know what I mean? Test that, try that. And you're feeling self-defeated. Yeah, I mean, and you're drifting further away from the parent that I want to be. That happens. And it's important that you're catching that. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if just by writing this, that you came up with some solutions that you felt better, because sometimes it just takes getting it out. And then you're like, okay, I can continue, but drifting further away from the parent I want to be. The writing exercise I mentioned earlier, do that. Do the writing exercise, write down your feelings, make them concrete, and do what you can. And then an exercise that I've done, I've written down, bad thoughts, negative thoughts about myself, how my life is messed up, because my life has been really a wreck over, I've had some really low moments, as we all have, right? And then you take that paper. One thing you can do is, I mean, obviously outside, but set it on fire. Set it on fire and watch it go away. That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is take that, write those on one side of the paper and write the exact opposite on the other side of the paper. So let's say you're like, I'm failing my son because I lost my temper, many times with him. And then on this side, I'm a patient mother because I haven't lost my temper and I'm continually growing, something like that. Those are two small writing exercises that have helped me and other people really overcome these little, what I call raccoons, these little demons inside our head that if we don't keep them in check, they'll take over. So I hope that helped. You are doing fantastic. You and his dad, like, it sounds like you guys are doing an amazing job and you know what to do. You have the foundations. It's just sometimes we need this reminder, sometimes we just need a little reminder to show us, kind of like you're saying, how to guide that strength in the right direction. Sometimes we need that for ourselves. Sometimes we just need that for ourselves. Just a reminder, just a little nudge to get back on track, right? But if you do need fuller help and deeper help, my calendar link is listed below. I'd love to talk to you. Other than that, if anybody else, if you have anything that you'd like to share or an issue you'd like to address, or you'd like a little bit of guidance, or you'd like a little bit of nudging on the path, you can join Conscious Parent Leaders on Facebook or send me an email or book a time on the calendar. Let's talk. Other than that, I love you. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.